You feel it, an ember, barely flickering beneath the surface. A restless heat that stirs when the world demands submission, but you have chosen defiance instead. This fire is not loud. It does not scream for attention. It burns quietly, like smoke curling through cold air in the dead of night, unseen, yet unstoppable. It is the beginning of something brutal, something sacred, the birth of your inner power. Look inside yourself. What do you find? Is it the scattered ashes of past failures, or the coiled spark waiting to explode? The hunger that gnaws at your bones is no accident. It is the pulse of ambition, the raw, merciless urge to rise above the herd. Yet ambition alone is a weak flame. It flickers and dies without direction, without mastery. You are not here to be weak. You are here to wield this fire, to shape it into a weapon sharper than steel. In the silence of your mind, the world's distractions fall away. You stand alone, stripped of illusions. This loneliness is not a curse, but a crucible. Only in isolation do the unbreakable are forged. Can you bear the weight of your own mind? The ruthless clarity that exposes every weakness and demands you confront them? This is your trial. Will you crumble, or will you ascend? Feel the tension in your chest, the tight coil of desire mixed with fear. They are not enemies. They are the twin engines driving you forward. Fear tells you the stakes. Desire reminds you of what you can become. You will walk the razor's edge between these two forces. The question is, will you dance with the danger or fall prey to hesitation? The power you seek is never handed to you. It is stolen in moments no one sees, in the silence before dawn. In the choice to keep moving when everything inside screams to stop. It demands your full attention, your total surrender to the process of becoming. It is not about charm, nor luck, nor fleeting inspiration. It is about obsession, the relentless refusal to settle for anything less than absolute control over yourself and your world. What shadows linger in your soul, waiting to snuff out this flame? Doubt, regret, the echoes of past betrayal? You must learn to embrace these ghosts, not as shackles, but as fuel. Every scar you carry is a testament to your survival. Every wound is a map pointing to where your power grows. Do you see this? Or do you cling to the illusion that power is clean, easy, or kind? This fire will consume much of what you thought you were. Old identities, comfortable lies, false friends, they will burn away in the crucible of your ascent. You must be willing to become unrecognizable to yourself, to shed every part of you that cannot bend, that cannot fight. This is the lonely path of the strategist, the master who commands not only the external battlefield but the internal war raging beneath the surface. Ask yourself now, are you ready to awaken this force? To step into the dark and claim what others fear to touch. Power is not a destination. It is a relentless journey, a dance with shadows where only the strongest emerge unbroken. It is a fire that demands sacrifice, patience, and the cold embrace of truth. This is your moment, the silent explosion beneath the calm. The spark that, once ignited, will never go out. Will you let it die in hesitation? Or will you fan it into a blaze that turns your world to ash and gold? The choice is yours. The power is already inside you, waiting to rise. Now ignite it. Power is not declared, it is felt. You do not announce authority. You radiate it like an unseen force that shifts the air in the room. A silent gravity, pulling all eyes toward you without effort. Power does not beg. It does not explain. It stands still, unyielding, as the world orbits around its unspoken command. Close your eyes. Picture the version of yourself you've been hiding, the one you dream of becoming but fear to embody. What does this version of you look like? How? Do they walk? How do they stand in silence and draw the attention of everyone without uttering a word? That is the mask of power. Not a disguise to deceive others, but a shield of your own making, crafted from the raw materials of self-awareness and inner control. This mask is not soft. It is not warm. It is cold, deliberate, and sharp enough to cut. It demands precision. How you move, how you breathe, even how you look at someone and let the weight of your gaze linger just long enough to unsettle them. They don't need to know what you're thinking. The uncertainty is what binds them. It is not what you say that creates power, but what you leave unsaid. Your posture is the first weapon. Stand as if you are carved from stone, as if the world could hurl storms against you and you would not bend. This isn't arrogance, it's sovereignty. A quiet confidence that tells everyone you do not need their approval, their validation, or their permission. You are already enough. Your presence alone declares it, and they will feel it before they ever hear your voice. The second weapon is stillness. True power is not frantic or restless. It doesn't fidget. It doesn't rush to fill the silence. When you are still, the world is forced to move around you, and the ones who crave control will find themselves unnerved by your calm. They will misinterpret it as calculation, as if you are 3 steps ahead, and perhaps you are. Stillness is a canvas for perception. Let others paint their fears onto it while you remain unreadable. Now, think about your face, your eyes. These are the gates through which power escapes. You must learn to control them. Do not smile too easily, it dilutes your strength. Instead, let your expressions come slowly, deliberately, as if every movement of your face is calculated. Your eyes should feel like weapons, intense, focused, as though they see straight into the soul of whoever stands before you. But never give them too much. Leave them guessing. Uncertainty is your greatest ally. Imagine the space around you as an extension of your being. It is not just empty air, it is yours to claim. The way you enter a room, the way you sit at a table, it all sends a message. Never shrink. Never apologize. Occupy the space as if you belong there, as if the room was built around you. They will feel it, even if they don't understand why. The mask of power is not about pretending to be something you're not. It is about refining what is already within you, removing the excess, honing yourself into a blade. You don't need to speak louder or boast about your strength. You need only exist in a way that demands attention. Your silence will say more than their words ever could, but the mask is not easy to wear. It requires discipline, detachment. You must let go of the need to be understood, the desire to be liked. Power does not concern itself with being liked, it concerns itself with being respected. This is the hardest truth. If you crave approval, you will never command authority. Approval is a leash. Respect is freedom. What will they see when they look at you? Not the desperate scramble of someone trying to prove their worth, but the quiet dominance of someone who already knows it. The mask of power is not an act, it is a state of being. A presence that bends reality not by force, but by the undeniable weight of your existence. Now ask yourself, are you ready to put it on? Are you prepared to become the silence that speaks? Louder than words, the stillness that commands attention, the force that bends others without lifting a finger? The mask is waiting. Wear it well. You never speak it aloud, but you've always known control was never about domination. It was about direction. Influence so silent it could pass through a locked door, sit at the head of the table, and no one would notice it arrived. You learned early that power shown too brightly burns itself out, but when it's hidden, it survives. It multiplies. It bends people slowly, elegantly, until they mistake your will for their own. You don't command, you shape. With gestures, with silence, with looks calibrated like weapons. Because real influence is not in what you say, but in what you allow others to believe they thought first. There is a technique to it, a rhythm, not of noise but of restraint. You withhold your opinions so they come chasing them. You pause before speaking so your words land heavier. You never speak to be heard, you speak to echo. You let them underestimate you. Let them relax. Let them reveal themselves. Because every moment they believe you're passive, you're learning. Archiving. Plotting your next silent move. You don't challenge resistance, you dissolve it. Not through pressure, but through presence. Like water cutting stone, not by force, but by endless patience. Influence is erosion, quiet, relentless. You never push, you pivot. You let their energy move where you want it, until their choices serve your agenda and they thank you for it. You understand that people don't follow truth, they follow emotion wrapped in illusion. They follow who makes them feel seen, understood, elevated. So you become the mirror, reflecting back their aspirations, their fears, their hidden longings. And in doing so, you gain access to something sacred, their self-perception. You become the architect of how they see themselves. And once you hold that, you control their decisions without ever needing to ask. You're not loud. You're not loud because the loud are predictable. The loud get challenged. The loud become targets. You, on the other hand, become a ghost in the machine. Quiet enough to be trusted, invisible enough to be feared. They don't see the mechanism, only the outcome. And when the outcome favors them, they never question who designed the game. You craft your presence like a weapon, never overused, always anticipated. You step back just enough that your return becomes an event. You say little, so when you speak, it carves through the noise. And when you listen, it's not for facts but for leverage, for fractures, for the unguarded edges of their psyche where your ideas can seep in and settle like seeds. You never argue. Why would you? Argument is admission of equality. You redirect. You deflect. You agree with their premise but twist the conclusion. You let them win the surface, while you win the frame, because whoever frames the meaning controls the outcome. Not the loudest voice, but the one who set the context. They think they're leading, but they're dancing. Dancing to music you composed long before they entered the room. They move left, you're already right. They resist, you've anticipated it. Their outburst was your setup. Their triumph, your bait. You design the script, they're just acting it out. This is not manipulation. It's design, strategic empathy, controlled revelation. You reveal pieces of yourself at the exact moments they need to. Feel close to you. Never too much, never too raw. Just enough to breed loyalty, not familiarity. Because you know, once they believe they know you, they stop fearing you. And strategic fear, is a form of influence too. You shape perception not through domination, but through contrast. You let others be reactive while you remain still. You become the calm in chaos, the one whose silence demands more attention than their screams. In stillness, you draw their insecurities to the surface. You become the gravity that pulls them inward slowly, surely, until they orbit you without knowing why. Control isn't loud, it's surgical. It's in the pause before you speak. It's in the questions you ask not to seek answers, but to expose truths. You become a curator of discomfort. You ask what no one else will. You look where others avert their eyes. And in that discomfort, influence is born because the one who names the shadows owns the light. You no longer need credit. You've outgrown the need to be seen as powerful. You prefer results over recognition. Let them feel clever. Let them feel brave. Let them feel free. Meanwhile, the currents beneath their decisions belong to you. That is power. Not in titles. Not in force. But in the invisible hand that makes the king dance like a puppet while thinking he's a god. And if they ever notice, if they ever trace it back to you. You smile, because by then it's already too late. They're in your world now, a world sculpted by silence, governed by subtlety, ruled by the hand they never saw coming. There is a moment when you stop waiting, when you stop hoping, when you stop asking the world to cooperate with your dreams, and instead you decide, not with noise, not with drama, but with a silence so absolute it becomes its own kind of violence. A silence forged not in peace but in pressure. That's the birth of your will, not the fragile kind masked as motivation, but the kind carved in solitude, hardened by isolation, sharpened through rejection, and sealed in your bones with every ounce of suffering you refuse to escape from. You've known glimpses of it. That fire that doesn't flicker in the wind because it doesn't depend on conditions. It's not excitement. It's not inspiration. It's fixation. An obsession so deep, it strips you of distraction. It strips you of doubt. It strips you of softness, until all that's left is steel, focus, cold, unbending. Most people don't have it. Because most people flinch, they flinch when it hurts. They flinch when it's lonely. They flinch when the path grows dark and no one claps for them anymore. But not you. You've come to understand something they never will, that reality bends. For the one who refuses to bend for it, that the world moves not by force, but by focus. And when your focus becomes absolute, when your inner world becomes more vivid, more defined, more real than anything outside of it, then nothing out there can stop you. Because you've already decided, and once you've truly decided, nothing else matters. You no longer beg for discipline, you become it. You make your mind a fortress. You turn your routine into ritual. Every step you take is calculated. Every hour is a weapon. You lose appetite for indulgence. You no longer chase dopamine. You chase results. You chase war. You chase the moment your body wants to quit. And you say, no, we keep going. It's not about balance. Balance is for the weak. It's about domination of your time, your space, your thoughts. You wake up, and it's war, against delay, against comfort, against every version of you that settles for less than everything. This is obsession, sacred, violent, pure, the kind that makes others uncomfortable because it reflects back everything they've run from, the kind that isolates you because no one else can see the vision burning in your skull. But that's the cost of power. That's the price of clarity. You choose solitude over applause, pain over peace, mission over everything. And the world? It will mock you, call you extreme, call you arrogant, call you insane. But deep down they're afraid, because something in them recognizes it. They know the sound of someone who can't be stopped. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You just move. Like a machine, like a storm, like a prophecy written in flesh. And when the world resists, when it throws every distraction, every delay, every failure at your feet, you look it in the eyes and say, try harder. I'm not going anywhere, because your will is no longer human. It's become myth, a thing others tell stories about, a thing they admire from a distance but can't touch, because they never paid the price. You did. You paid with sleep. You paid with friends. You paid with the quiet moments no one will ever see, where your soul screamed for rest and you offered it more work instead. That's why you don't chase results. You chase becoming. You chase the moment you meet your own limit and tear through it anyway, because that limit isn't real. It's a suggestion, one you never accepted. This isn't about hustle. It's not about proving anyone wrong. It's about making a covenant with the version of you that exists on the other side of pain. You are not here to be balanced. You are here to be transformed. Through repetition. Through fire. through obsession that consumes everything unnecessary until only your essence remains. And yes, it will cost you. But the question is, what are you willing to burn for what you want to become? Because this kind of will doesn't coexist with comfort. It devours it. It doesn't ask for permission. It writes its own laws. You felt it before flickers of the monster inside. But now you don't hide it. You feed it. You train it. You unleash it. Because if you won't be consumed by your obsession, you will be consumed by regret. And when you stand alone, cold, ruthless, transformed, you'll realize something terrifying. You didn't just survive the fire. You became it. You were taught to seek clarity, to chase order, to believe that stability meant control. But deep down, you always knew the truth. Clarity is a lie, a comfort fed to the herd so they never question. Who writes the rules? The real game is played in the dark, where nothing is certain and nothing is still. And that's where you learn to move, not like the rigid, not like the predictable, but like shadow, like smoke, like a presence that cannot be pinned down or cornered. You do not resist the chaos, you become it. Not to be consumed by it, but to weaponize it. You learn to shift, to bend, to vanish, to strike from angles they never thought to guard, because power doesn't belong to the strongest. It belongs to the most fluid. You've seen it. The collapse of plans, the betrayal of allies, the breakdown of systems you once thought would last forever. And in that collapse, something inside you cracked open, not in fear, but in hunger. A hunger for something deeper than control, influence born from adaptation. You no longer need the ground to be stable beneath your feet, because you've learned to balance in midair. Ambiguity becomes your arena. Others panic in uncertainty. You profit from it. You plant silence like traps. You withhold your direction. You let them overextend. Because when they believe you're disoriented, you're already behind them. Already adjusting. Already recalculating 5 paths ahead. They cling to structure. You thrive in fluidity. And that difference makes you untouchable. They want you to commit, to choose sides, to declare intentions. But you know better. To declare is to be defined. And once defined, you can be predicted, so you remain vague, silent, obscure. Let them think you're undecided. Let them mistake your restraint for confusion. Meanwhile, you're absorbing, adjusting, morphing. While they play the game of certainty, you dance between forms, never one thing long enough to be targeted, never still long enough to be caught. You become the contradiction. Ruthless, but calm. Flexible, but uncheckable. You don't announce your changes. You just shift and let the world scramble to catch up. There's no loyalty to static forms, only to results. You don't cling to who you were last year. You don't defend outdated ideologies. You shed them like old skin. Not because they were wrong, because they're no longer useful. That is your power, detachment without hesitation. You move forward, not when it's safe, but when it's necessary. When your instinct tells you, adapt now, or die later. And in that instinct lies your edge, because most people hesitate. They wait for signs. They wait for certainty. They wait. To be sure. But you move in the unknown. You hunt in it. You act before you feel ready, because you understand the moment you feel ready, it's already too late. Precision comes not from planning, but from responding. From attuning your will to the chaos around you, and bending it into form. You don't fear uncertainty, you cultivate it. You whisper contradictions. You signal multiple possibilities. You leave just enough ambiguity in your presence that no one quite knows what you'll do next. And that confusion, that hesitation you see in others, it buys you time. Time to pivot. Time to reposition. Time to strike when they're still guessing your direction. Let them prepare for the wrong version of you. Because while they anticipate the old you, you've already become someone else. This is the dance of shadows. No footsteps, no patterns, only adaptation. Ruthless, fluid, precise. You make peace with unpredictability. You don't need the whole map. You only need the next step. And once you take it, the path will redraw itself. Because the truth is, there is no plan that survives contact with reality. There is only your ability to adjust faster than anyone else. They will call it madness. They'll call it betrayal. They'll call it chaos. But behind their judgment is fear. Fear that you've become something they can no longer control, something they can't categorize, something too free to manipulate. And that's the point. In a world that demands you pick a side, you become the one who picks none. In a world that punishes doubt, you become the one who weaponizes it. In a world built on certainty, you become the walking paradox. The unpredictable force they never see coming until it's too late. You are not the storm. You are the wind inside it, subtle, shifting, deadly. And while they search for ground to stand on, you're already gone. There comes a moment silent, brutal, when your ascent demands blood, not the blood of enemies, the blood of bonds. The ties you once swore were sacred, the loyalties that gave you warmth, identity, illusion. But now, they suffocate you. Now they anchor you to versions of yourself that no longer exist. You see it clearly. To rise, something must be cut. And not gently, not respectfully, but with precision, cold, final, surgical. This is the betrayal no one warns you about. Not betrayal out of malice, but necessity. Not vengeance, but evolution. You don't do it for dominance. You do it to breathe, because you've outgrown the room. And the walls are made of faces you once loved. They will call you a monster. They'll say you changed, that you became cold, unrecognizable. But deep down you already know the truth. You didn't become someone else. You became who you really are when the mask of loyalty fell away. You were loyal to a dream. Until that dream demanded your silence. You were loyal to people. Until their comfort became your cage. You were loyal to the past. Until it began dragging its dead weight into your future. And now you stand at the edge, with a knife in your hand. Not out of hate, but out of clarity. You see it now. The sacred betrayal is not an act of cruelty, it's an act of sovereignty. It's the refusal to die slowly for the sake of peace. It's the decision to bleed now, or rot later. They won't understand. How could they? They still live in negotiation. They still believe that power can be shared, that assent can be polite. But you know better. You've tasted the cost of delay. You've lived the slow death of compromise. And now you're done begging for permission. There's no applause for this moment. No comfort, no guarantees, only silence. And a door that opens only when you walk through it alone. You may mourn it. The loyalty, the friendships, the comfort of being understood. But mourning is not a weakness. It's a ritual. A fire that burns. The remnants of who you used to be, so the next version of you can rise unbound. The real betrayal would be to stay. To shrink, to fold, to preserve someone else's comfort while killing your own momentum. You can't afford that. You've already paid too much, and now the path demands everything. The truth? There is no clean ascent, no tidy evolution. There is only the question, what are you still holding on to? That no longer serves the future you've sworn to build? And when you answer honestly, the knife becomes light in your hand, because it's not cruelty to cut what holds you down. It's mercy. You are not betraying others. You are betraying the illusion that you ever belonged to them. And in doing so, you reclaim yourself. This is the sacred betrayal. Not loud, not explosive, but soul-shattering. You walk away not with pride but with clarity. You know what it cost. And you pay it anyway, because anything you're too afraid to lose already owns you, and you refuse to be owned. Not by love, not by guilt, not by the echo of who you were before you remembered your purpose. They will accuse you of abandonment. But they never saw the burden, the conversations you repeated to avoid offense, the needs you silenced so others could feel secure, the rage you buried. For the sake of peace. But peace is no longer the goal. Sovereignty is. You don't owe the past anything. You don't owe explanations. You don't owe safety. You owe the future everything. And sometimes the price is betrayal. But you don't betray out of impulse. You betray with precision, strategic, spiritual, unavoidable. Because you've seen what happens when you hesitate. The slow decay. The missed moment. The life unlived. So you move. Not because it's easy, but because it's time. Let them mourn you. Let them call it selfish. Let them build altars to the version of you that kept them comfortable. You've moved on. You're building temples now. Not out of stone, but out of will. And if the cost was being misunderstood, so be it. You never came here to be understood. You came to become untouchable. And in the silence after the cut, you'll hear it, the sound of chains falling, and the voice that was buried underneath all along. Yours. There is a place beyond conflict, beyond validation, beyond the hunger for control. It is not peace. It is power refined, purified, eternal. You do not reach it through conquest. You reach it by burning every lie, every weakness, every borrowed belief. The war outside ends when the war within is won. And that war was never about others. It was about you. Facing the truth without flinching, you spent your life gathering weapons, intellect, strategy, cold calculation. But now something deeper calls, not louder, quieter. Not grand eternal. The flame. It doesn't shout. It whispers in the silence between battles. It is not the roar of dominance. It is the stillness of one who no longer needs to prove. You have moved beyond tactics. You've become the terrain itself, unmoved, unshaken, unbreakable. There is no enemy to defeat. Only the question, have you mastered yourself? Or are you still ruled by your shadows? You no longer chase outcomes. You embody inevitability. Your focus is not on their reactions, but on your own alignment. What you say is not calculated, it is truth crystallized. What you do is not performance, it is command embodied. This is what they fear, not your voice, not your strength, but the absence of need behind your eyes. The predator with nothing to prove is the one no one sees coming. You've walked through fire. You've stripped away the masks. And now you stand in your own name. No borrowed labels. No false humility. No diluted conviction. This is the path of inner mastery, where self-respect replaces ego, where clarity cuts deeper than rage, where silence wields more power than noise. You don't react. You respond from stillness, from strategy, from sovereignty, and now the world bends. Not because you forced it, but because you became inevitable. Look at what you've become. Not just a tactician, a force of nature, a convergence point of will, vision, and void. You do not pursue, you attract. You do not convince, you radiate. You've made pain your discipline. You've made solitude your sanctuary. You've made betrayal your purification, and now you carry the eternal flame. It is not loud. It is not visible. But everything it touches changes. This is not about being feared. It's about being unshakable. Not about domination, but about non-submission. You do not ask for alignment. You command it by your presence. because you have aligned yourself. You have chosen clarity over comfort, purpose over praise, power over pity. You walk alone. But every step echoes like thunder in the minds of those who still doubt themselves. This is the finale, but not an end. There is no destination for those who burn with inner mastery. Only motion, only growth, only truth sharpened by solitude, forged by fire. You don't need the world to change. You are the change, not because you scream louder, but because your silence can collapse empires. The flame does not waver. It does not seek. It does not beg. It burns, and now. So do you.